beside her desk and whispered, "I made a drawing last night. Want to see?" Dees nodded. Zuby opened his sketchbook and turned it toward her. It was a picture of her, standing on one foot, dancing with the other raised in the air like a queen who refused to fall. The caption read, "Even when she limps, she still leads." Adiz smiled for the first time that morning. Break time came and Madame Ego entered the class. "Adiz," she said, "come to my office." The class whispered again. Was she going to be disqualified? Would they tell her to quit? Zuby helped her up. She limped slowly into the principal's office. Madame Ego looked up from her table. "I heard what happened." Dees nodded. "Do you know who did it?" Madame Ego asked. "No, Ma," Adiz said quietly. "But I know it wasn't just an accident." Madame Ego sighed. "Some people hate what they don't understand. Your strength frightens them." She stood up and walked closer. "But if you wish to withdraw from the contest, I'll understand. You've already proven something greater than any crown." Adiz looked at her and shook her head gently. "Ma, I want to dance. Even if it's with pain, I will still dance." Madame Ego smiled. "Then Oba Secondary is about to witness something powerful." As Adiz walked out of the office, her bandage showing clearly beneath her socks, she noticed a few students whispering. But this time it wasn't mocking. It was respect. Some nodded. Some looked at her with new eyes. Later that day during rehearsals, Auntie Peace said the contestants could rest since Cultural Day was so close. "Rest your legs, my girls," she said. "But in your heart rehearse." The girls sat in a circle, talking about dresses, makeup, and family. Tommy sat with her group, watching Adiz from the corner of her eye. She had tried everything, shame, laughter, juju, even pain. But the girl was still standing. That night, Adiz sat in her room and opened her school bag. Inside, she found something she didn't put there. A folded paper. Her hands trembled as she opened it. It read, "They plan to ruin you on stage. Be ready." No name. No handwriting she recognized. No clue who wrote it. She looked outside her window. The night was calm. But her chest was not. Who sent the warning? And what were they planning next? Adiz held the letter in her hand for a long time. The handwriting was rough. The paper smelled like dust and old notebooks. But the words inside were sharp and clear. "They plan to ruin you on stage. Be ready." She read it over and over. Her fingers trembled slightly. Was it a threat? Or a warning? And who were they? Her first thought was Tommy. But Tommy wouldn't warn her. If anything, Tommy wanted her to fall harder. Then who wrote this? Adiz whispered. She folded the note and hid it inside her exercise book. Then she sat on her bed, thinking. That night, while eating yam porridge with her father, she finally spoke. "Papa, what if someone is planning to embarrass me during the competition?" Papa Ifani dropped his spoon. "Did someone tell you something?" Adiz nodded slowly. "I found a letter in my bag." He leaned closer. "Let me see." Adiz brought it out and handed it to him. He read the note and frowned. "This is serious." Madame Clara, who had been listening from the kitchen, walked in and hissed. "I said it from the beginning. This beauty contest is not for people like us. Let her cancel her name and rest." Adiz stood up gently. "I'm not canceling anything, Auntie. If someone wants to disgrace me, I'll still stand." Papa Ifani looked at her proudly. "You're my daughter. And your mother would be clapping for you from heaven right now." The next day was Cultural Day Eve. The school compound was busy like Oba Market. Decorations hung on trees. Girls rehearsed last-minute steps. Boys practiced talking drums and flute sounds. Adiz arrived with a limp, her bandaged foot still healing. Zuby met her by the gate. "I have something for you," he said. He handed her a brown envelope. Inside was a drawing of her on stage, standing in the center, while shadows tried to pull her down from the sides. But her eyes were closed, and from her chest, light was shining outwards, pushing the darkness back. Adiz looked at it with tears in her eyes. You think I can win? Zubi smiled. You already won. You just don't know it yet. Suddenly, Madame Ego called all the contestants into the hall. Tomorrow, she began, you will each go through 3 rounds. Cultural dance, traditional dressing, and a short speech. Judges will be watching closely. I want pride. I want culture. I want confidence. Tommy raised her hand. What if someone gets sick or falls on stage? Madame Ego smiled. Then they rise with grace. Falling is not failure. Adiz watched Tommy's face. There was something in her eyes. Nervousness. As the contestants walked out, Adiz felt something slip into her hand. She looked down. Another note. This one said, they want to switch your music. Bring your own copy. Her heart pounded. Switch her music. She remembered her dance. Each step matched with drum beats. If someone changed the music, she'd be lost on stage. Zubi came running over. What happened? Adiz showed him the second note. It's tomorrow. They want to confuse me. Zubi thought for a moment. We'll make your own copy tonight. I'll get a flash drive. But how did the person know? And who keeps warning me? Adiz asked. Zubi paused, then whispered. Maybe someone from their group doesn't want to hurt you anymore. Adiz looked around the school compound. People were dancing, laughing, preparing. But someone was watching her from the shadows. And tomorrow, everything would come to light. The sun rose early over Oba, golden and wide like a drum waking the town. It was cultural day. The air buzzed with excitement. Drums thumped, beads rattled, rappers rustled, and the smell of jollof rice floated from the back of the school where mothers had set up food stalls. Adiz stood in front of the cracked mirror in her room, dressed in a deep red wrapper, an Asaiga blouse, coral beads on her neck and wrists. Her head tie was bold, tied high like a queen's crown. Zubi had arrived earlier with the flash drive in his pocket, the one that had her real music. Don't let them trick you, he warned. Whatever happens, dance your truth. Papa Ifani smiled as he adjusted her waist beads. Your mother would be so proud today. Adiz blinked back tears, hugged her father, and stepped out into the sun. At school, the field was decorated with palm branches, colorful fabrics, and mats. A wooden stage stood in the center with chairs for judges. 3 guests from the town, including a popular radio host, a local artist, and a retired teacher. Madame Ego welcomed them proudly. You will see beauty with meaning today, she told the judges. Not just faces, but hearts. Backstage, the girls lined up. Each had her own style. Shiny wrappers, long beads, fans, makeup. Tommy stood beside Adiz in gold and white, her eyes sharp. Hope your music matches your footwork, she whispered. Adiz said nothing. She just clutched the flash drive in her palm like it was her shield. Auntie Peace came to check each contestant. Dance first, then speech, then final walk. That's how we'll do it, she announced. The host called the first name. Then the second. And came. Number 3. Adiz Ifani. Adiz stepped onto the stage. The crowd grew quiet. Her beads clinked softly as she walked forward. Her legs still hurt, but she hid it well. Her face was calm. Her eyes focused. She handed the flash drive to the music controller. But the man frowned. Another girl already brought your music, he said. It's wrong, Adiz replied. Play this one. He hesitated, then plugged hers in. The drums started. Low. Full of history. Adiz closed her eyes. She let the beat guide her feet. One step, then another. Her waist moved like the river. Her arms like the wind. Her face told a story. Of pain, strength, and rising above shame. The crowd watched in silence. Then clapped. Then stood. Some mothers ululated. Some students shouted. Even the judges nodded in surprise. Zubi clapped so hard his hands turned red. Adiz finished with a slow bow, then limped off the stage with grace. Tommy's face was stiff. She knew now this wouldn't be easy. The next round was speech. Each girl was to speak on what true beauty meant. Tommy talked about class, elegance, and looking good in any dress. Deez stepped up slowly. She looked at the crowd, her voice soft but clear. I used to think beauty was about who people looked at the most. But now I know. Beauty is who you are when no one is clapping. It is how you rise after they try to break you. The audience went quiet, then burst into applause. Even Madame Ego wiped a tear from her eye. As the event drew to a close, the final walk began. Each girl stepped forward in slow, graceful strides. When Deez walked, she didn't limp anymore. She floated. And as she turned, her eyes locked on someone in the crowd. Ngozi, Tommy's quiet friend, holding her phone. Their eyes met. Ngozi gave a small nod. Deez knew instantly. She was the one sending the notes. But before she could react, the host returned to the stage with a brown envelope. The final moment had come. The sun was high above the school field. Everyone gathered closer as the host held up the brown envelope with shaking hands. Drums rolled gently in the background. The crowd leaned forward. Girls held their breath. Deez's heart pounded like a talking drum inside her chest. She looked to the side of the stage and saw Zubi giving her a thumbs up. She looked into the crowd again and caught eyes with Ngozi, Tommy's quiet friend. The same girl who had passed her the warning notes. Ngozi quickly looked away. The host cleared his throat. And now, for the moment we've all been waiting for. He slowly tore the brown envelope open. The entire school fell silent. The 2025 Queen of Oba Secondary School is Deez Ifani. The field exploded with cheers, claps, whistles, and ululations. Some students jumped to their feet. Mothers screamed with joy. Even some teachers were wiping tears. Zubi screamed louder than anyone. Yes! I told you! Deez froze. For a moment she couldn't move. Her ears were ringing. Her eyes blinked quickly, unsure if she heard right. But then Madame Ego stepped forward, holding the golden crown made of beads and cloth. Come forward, my queen. Deez walked slowly, her feet shaking more than her heart. When she reached the center, Madame Ego placed the crown gently on her head. This crown is not just for beauty, the principal said into the mic. It is for bravery, for culture, for confidence, for rising. Deez closed her eyes as the crowd clapped again. A single tear rolled down her cheek. Not from sadness, not from pain, but from something new, freedom. Freedom from shame. Freedom from the words that haunted her. Freedom from being invisible. The host handed her the winner's sash and a brown envelope. A cash prize of 50,000 Nigerian nairas and school fees scholarship for next term. The students clapped again. Tommy stood frozen at the side of the stage. Her face was blank. Her lips pressed into a hard line. Her plan had failed. Her lies had failed. Her cousin's trap hadn't stopped Deez. Nothing had. Deez stood on the stage now, shining, glowing, unstoppable. After the event, students surrounded her, some taking pictures, others asking questions. Even the girls who once mocked her now smiled shyly and said, "You dance like a goddess. Your speech made me cry. Sorry for the way I talked before." Deez nodded kindly. She didn't hold grudges. Later that evening, behind the classroom block, she stood alone, holding the crown in her hands. Ngozi appeared quietly, like a shadow. "It was me," she said. "I sent the notes." Deez turned slowly. "Why?" "Because I used to be like them. I used to laugh at girls who didn't fit. But one day I saw Tommy put something in your bag. I felt sick in my heart. So I warned you." Deez nodded. "Thank you. You saved me." "No," Ngozi whispered. "You saved me." They hugged quietly. From a distance, Zubi watched and smiled. Later that night, as Deez sat on her bed at home, Papa Ifani placed a bowl of pepper soup in front of her. "For the Queen of Oba," he said, grinning. Madame Clara passed behind them, muttering, "She's still too dark." Papa Ifani stood and faced her. "And she still won." Clara hissed and walked off. Adiz smiled at her father and whispered to herself. Maybe being dark is not a curse. Maybe it's my superpower. But deep in the shadows of Oba, Tommy was not done. She was planning something new. And this time, it wouldn't just be words. The morning after Cultural Day felt like a dream. Students greeted Adiz with wide smiles and respectful nods. Good morning, Queen Adiz. I love your dance yesterday. You deserve that crown. She walked through the school gate feeling like she was floating. For the first time ever, the whispers behind her back were no longer insults. They were admiration. Even the teachers looked at her differently. Mr. Akoli, who used to smile whenever the class laughed at her, now said, I knew she had potential. Adiz wanted to laugh. They all saw her now. But behind the praises, something didn't feel right. She kept catching Tommy staring at her from the far side of the compound. Eyes cold, face unreadable. Tommy hadn't said a word since the crown was announced. She didn't clap. She didn't smile. She didn't even pretend. Zubi noticed it too. She's planning something, he whispered during break. Don't let your guard down. But what more can she do? Deez asked. The contest is over. Who won? It's finished. Zubi shook his head slowly. For someone like Tommy, nothing is ever finished. Losing to you bruised her pride. That afternoon, Ngozi slipped Adiz another note. Be careful what you eat or drink. Is angry. More than ever. Adiz read the paper and swallowed hard. Her heart began to beat fast again. Just when she thought it was over, danger was creeping in again. Later that day, Madame Ego asked Adiz to join her in the school office. We'll be printing your photo for the school wall, she said with a smile. Every year, the Queen's picture is displayed beside the principal's office. Adiz felt joy rise in her chest. Thank you, Ma. As she walked back toward the class, she passed the back of the school building and stopped. There was Tommy talking with someone in hushed tones. Adiz hid behind a wall and listened. She thinks it's over, Tommy said. But I'll make sure everyone forgets her name. She'll regret ever wearing that crown. How? The person asked. Just wait. Her fall will be loud. Adiz stepped back, heart racing. She didn't wait to hear more. At closing time, she met Zubi outside the school gate. Zubi, she said, her voice low. She's planning something. I heard her with my own ears. Zubi's face grew serious. We need to be smart. We can't fight her with anger. We fight her with truth. Deez nodded. I'm ready. That night, she sat by the window, holding her crown in her lap. She wasn't afraid. But she wasn't naive either. This war wasn't over. And the next battle wouldn't be on a stage. It would be in the hearts of those who still believed she didn't deserve her light. Started with whispers again. Tiny, sharp words, floating from mouth to mouth like dust in dry harmattan air. Did you hear? They say she used juju to win. A girl like her can't win on her own. Adiz walked through the school gate, bag on her shoulder, crown no longer on her head, but her name still carried weight. Now, people greeted her with smiles that didn't reach their eyes. Good morning, Adiz, said some girls, but after they passed, they whispered behind her. At first she tried to ignore it. But by the third day, the rumor had spread like wildfire. They say she met a native doctor behind Ubahu Shrine. Zubi helped her do it. That boy can draw anything, even fake charms. No dark-skinned girl wins without help. Zubi slammed his locker shut during break. This is nonsense, he growled. Now they're calling us charmers. Why don't they just say the truth? They can't stand a black girl winning. Adiz sat quietly, head down, fingers clenched. It hurts, Zubi, she said softly. It hurts because, just when I thought I was finally free, they've made a new chain for me. That afternoon, Madame Ego called Adiz to her office. My dear, I won't lie to you, she said. The PTA chairman called this morning. Some parents are worried. About what, Ma? Deez asked. They think the school is promoting juju, Madame Ego replied with a heavy sigh. They're saying your win might not have been clean. Adi's lips parted in shock. But, dance, you spoke. I earned it. I know that, Madame Ego said firmly. And the judges know it. But the world doesn't always reward truth first. It loves noise. And right now, Tommy and her people are making noise. Adi stood, blinking back tears. So what happens now? We're standing by you, Madame Ego said. But I need you to stay calm. We will find the root of this rumor. Outside the office, Tommy leaned against the wall with a small smirk on her face. Is the crown getting too heavy? She whispered as Adiz walked by. Don't worry. It will fall soon. That evening, Zubi visited Adiz at home. He brought with him a school bulletin, a small sheet of gossip written by some students. On the front page was the headline, Queen of Oba or Queen of Charms. And under it, a blurry drawing of Adiz's crowned face with red chalk drawn around her eyes like a native priestess. Adiz stared at the paper. She couldn't speak. We need to fight back, Zubi said. We need to tell your story. The real one. Adiz looked at the wall beside her bed, where Zubi's drawing of her dancing still hung. You're right, she whispered. If they want noise, we'll give them truth that speaks louder. Because this wasn't just about the crown anymore. This was about every girl who had been told she was too dark, too poor, too different to shine. Adiz was ready. But Tommy's next move was already on the way. And this time, it would strike at something even deeper than her reputation. Adiz didn't sleep the night she saw the bulletin. She stared at the ceiling, her crown sitting quietly on the table, untouched. For the first time since Cultural Day, she didn't feel like a queen. She felt like a target. Her chest felt heavy, her body cold. I thought winning would mean peace, she whispered to herself. But it only made them hate me more. The next morning, she went to school without her usual smile. When she entered the class, someone had drawn something on the blackboard. Charcoal Queen. And underneath, Beauty by charm, not by grace. The class roared with laughter. Tommy sat at the back, her face innocent like she knew nothing. Adiz turned around, eyes watery, and slowly walked out. Zubi found her behind the staff room block, crouched beside the wall. They're not laughing because you failed, he said. They're laughing because you're rising, and they can't stop it. Adiz looked up. Then why does it still hurt? Zubi sat beside her and handed her something, a folded piece of paper. I wrote something, he said. For you. Adiz opened the paper and read. Even if the world throws stones, queens build castles from them. She smiled faintly. Thank you, Zubi. At home that evening, Papa Ifani sat beside her on the bench. When you were born, he said slowly, your mother said something I never forgot. Adiz looked at him. She said, this child will not need light to shine. She will be the light. Tears welled up in Adiz's eyes. But they don't want to let me shine. Then shine anyway, Papa said. Let their eyes burn if they must. The next day in school, Madame Ego made an announcement during morning assembly. We are investigating the source of false rumors against our cultural queen, she said firmly. Any student found guilty of spreading lies will face serious punishment. Tommy's eyes twitched. She didn't expect Madame Ego to stand behind Adiz so boldly. During break, Adiz returned to class to find her desk open and her crown missing. Her bag had been tossed on the floor, her notebook pages torn. And on the chalkboard, someone had written, Game over. Zubi stormed in behind her and froze. They took it, he whispered. They took your crown. Adiz stood there, fists clenched, heart shaking. Tommy appeared at the door, chewing gum slowly, eyes locked on Adiz. Adiz stared back. You can take the crown, she said softly. But not the queen who earned it. Tommy blinked. She wasn't expecting a fight. That evening, as Adiz walked home, she made a promise to herself. No matter how far they push, I will not run. I will rise. But unknown to her, Tommy wasn't done. She had one more plan. One that would turn the entire school, and even teachers, against Adiz. A plan that would shake the very ground beneath her name. It was Wednesday morning, and the sun hadn't even reached the top of the sky when trouble came knocking again. Adiz entered the school compound slowly, her steps cautious. Her crown was still missing. Her desk was still broken. But she was determined not to let it crush her spirit. She clutched her books tightly to her chest and walked into her class. Zubi had arrived earlier and cleaned the broken chalk message from the board. He drew a sun with a smiling face in the corner. "Even if they bring clouds, we shine," he said. Adiz smiled faintly. But before the smile could settle, Mr. Akoli, her class teacher, walked in with a serious face. "Adiz Ifani, stand up." Her heart skipped. She stood slowly. "Yes, sir. Follow me to the staff room. Now." Zubi also stood. "Sir, what is happening?" "Ooh. Sit down," Mr. Akoli snapped. Adiz followed him, her hands cold, legs heavy. In the staff room, Madame Ego was already seated, a paper in her hand. She didn't smile this time. "Adiz," she said quietly. "We received a report. A serious one. Ma. Someone submitted a written complaint that you stole Tommy's phone and 5,000 Nigerian nairas from her bag." Adiz gasped. "What? Ma, I didn't. Do you have any money or phone in your bag that's not yours?" "No, Ma. I swear. I didn't take anything." But Madame Ego looked troubled. "We have to check." Mr. Akoli opened her bag right there on the table. Inside, wrapped in her spare scarf, was a small red phone and 5 new 1,000 Nigerian nairas notes. Adiz's mouth dropped open. "That's not mine. I don't know how that got there." Tears spilled from her eyes. "Someone planted it. I swear." Madame Ego narrowed her eyes.